much for the opportunity to be with you this morning. I thank Rick for working out my visit today, and from all of the mission staff and everyone I have the pleasure to work with. Greetings to you all in the name of Jesus this morning. And just thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you today. I'll share a little bit about, it's kind of interesting. I was just reflecting, as I came into the parking lot this morning, I was a little earlier than most of you, but just wanted to be sure I didn't get lost, or I had an idea where the church was, but I wasn't sure, but I knew there was a lot of churches on this road, so I wanted to get the right one. So I didn't have to do a turnaround because I missed it. But I just had the greatest time. I was sitting with Slim in his car, and we were sharing some stories. He was sharing stories of Mississippi, and I was sharing stories of my childhood. And I can recall, I used to teach skiing and swinging, and this was the route I would take, 408 from Rochester. I lived in Gates, and it was about every 2 or 3 days because they had me on the schedule teaching all the time, and I was trying to work a job while I was doing that. But this was before I came to the Lord, that I was teaching skiing. I was an instructor, and but it's just interesting how life has a way to work out sometimes. And whoever would have imagined when I was coming through here every week, 2 or 3 times a week when I was younger, passing this church up and going through this village, that the day would come that this would be the day that I'd come and visit your church that I had driven by so many times when I didn't know the Lord. And isn't that life? Life is always about where we came from and where we are and where we're headed. And it's interesting because that's the stories of the mission. The stories of the mission are where were you, before you came to the mission, and what were you involved in, and then when you came to the mission, what did you experience, and what was the turning point possibly in your life, and then once you come to a realization of how bankrupt your life probably is and was before you came to the Lord, and maybe you came to the Lord when you were with the mission, now where are you headed? What's your future look like now that you have a new outlook in life, and you have a new heart, you have a new understanding of who God is and how God just wants to come alongside you and give you a future that glorifies His name. And I think that's kind of where we're at now. The mission is 65 years old this year. I've only had the pleasure of being there 18 years, but it's been just like James says, life is a vapor. Sometimes I look at my career at the mission, and I can't even believe it's 18 years later. I've seen a lot, I've witnessed a lot, I've experienced a lot, I've had a lot of things that I've contributed in talents and gifts God's given me to be a part of that organization. And I've worked with some wonderful people and continue to. And we have a lot of promise in Rochester, but at the same time we have a lot of turmoil and chaos and a lot of hurting people. But I don't want to really do much to really paint the grim picture that it is. I would rather we talk about the good things that are coming out of what God is doing in the city, what He's doing with individuals and families to bring glory to His name. And in doing that, I thought maybe, this is kind of an open forum of sorts. And I think, we're a small enough group where we can maybe share and reflect on what's on your heart and what comes to your heart, I guess, when we talk about this subject of homelessness, when we talk about poverty, when we talk about hunger and addiction, and just all of the things that surround what the mission is all about and who we are hoping to be able to help and serve and point in the direction of Jesus. So, how many of you have ever been to the mission that are in the room? Anyone? Okay. So let me just start out by giving you a little bit of a history. In 1952, a couple of industrialists in Rochester, one by the name of Grant Spiker, he was the actual founder of Open Door Mission. He was fairly well off, and then he came in contact with another gentleman, I'm not sure who that other person was, but I know that they combined their efforts to create what was the first soup kitchen in the Rochester area. It was on the corner of Main Street and Plymouth Avenue, which is really now just a parking lot, I believe. But so these guys came together and said, we need to help people with food, whoever's in a crisis of not having enough food. So they started a meals program, and it kind of evolved over time it was only feeding maybe 15, 20 people in the city, but that grew over time, and then the mission realized that there were homeless people in the community. They wanted to also provide shelter. So the shelter came into play in the late 50s, and then it really kind of took an evolution of time before we could ever really get any more services going. There's some new leadership came in the 70s, and that's kind of what stimulated some of the things that you see today, where we have we moved the shelter from one location to where it is now on Main Street. We kind of grew the shelter service, grew the meal service, and then ultimately to address real root issue problems, meaning addictions. So the men's Christian Life Recovery Program was instilled, and that kind of was paving the way for us to become more of a real solution to the community's problems. In the 60s, it was certainly a progression of drug addiction and alcoholism. We started to address those issues in the late 70s and then in the 80s. And throughout the 80s, I came on board in the 90s, the mid-90s, and we seem to have, between the time we started the Christian Life Recovery Program for men, there was the community started to really have a lot of issues related to women and single moms. And then the progression there in the 90s through the first part of the year 2000s and through more and more poverty, more and more single moms trying to make ends meet. So we, again, the mission takes another step to address what is another problem, for our city, and that's the numbers of single moms and children who are really displaced without permanent addresses, without any real foundation for stability. The one statistic that just bothers me and bothered us as a mission horribly over the last few years was the numbers of kids in the city school system who were not, who didn't have a permanent address. And when we found out the number was well over 2,000 children, we said we have to be a part of a solution to this. We have to be engaged in this. So the leadership came together and really came up with a plan and a strategy to address women and children and their needs. So I'm happy to say that we're just at the tail end of this plan and this strategy now to, for the first time, serve women and children with an option to live with us for a certain number of months so mom can find some stability in work. Maybe she's young and needs help with life skills and job searching and simple things, cooking, budgeting her money. But we want to be a support to her. We want to provide her and her children a chance to really be, I don't like to always say independent, because I think, our relationships with people never end after they leave our programs. We want people to be a little interdependent and know that they can always come to us even after they left us for help, that we're always going to be there to support them if they need further support. So, but giving mom a chance to be, to sustain her family and her children and to really have a good foundation, that takes a lot. And for the last few years now, we've been planning to do that. And we have a building that we're going to be opening up late in the year now, or as late as early next year, where we can have we can bring 6 or so families in with kids, moms, with their children, and house them for a period of time until we know that they can be on their own. But that's a big step for a mission, to do as much as we do now and to take on something as big as that. And that takes prayer, it takes real commitment, it takes a lot of planning. And I think I'm excited to know that we have a beautiful opportunity to really present Christ to women and their children, give them the principles and the values and the foundations of what we in this room probably have realized for ourselves and for our families, and to have someone be a part of God's family, and that we can come alongside them and give them all the support that's required for them to be successful and to enjoy and to be a part of society. I think that's important, so that they can have a part in what our society is about and our community, and they can begin to share the talents and gifts that God's given them with people around them. So if anyone has something on their heart, or if there's a question or something you wanted to bring up, we can discuss that. And I want this to be a little bit of a chance for you to share as well. I know Joni shared a little something with me earlier before we got started. And, I want this to be a time when we can even lift up some folks in prayer. If there's a matter on your heart, a family member or a friend, that we can lift up in prayer during this time too, that might be related to this subject matter. I have great respect for a few people I know who have really gone through some really life crises, and they came to terms with their crisis of addiction specifically, telling me, when the day came that they finally humbled themselves and laid down their pride, laid down their ego. Those are the folks who have found that that's when Jesus did the most work in their heart. And it's so powerful. The spirit of humility is often the thing that prevents people from really getting free and getting peace in their heart. And that's not easy for a lot of people. I've talked to some really hard cases, some people who won't even come to the mission that I've spoken to outside on the streets, and they're just not ready. They're just not ready to lay down the pride and they're just not ready. And that's fine. I mean, we all end of the rope, you know, and maybe the mission sometimes is the last knot on the rope for people. But, you know, we just pray for them. We trust God has their time in mind when they will finally come to terms with their life. And there may be a number of things that they go through that have to happen first. Some of the men I know I've spoken with, their turning point was their children. When they saw that their addiction was throwing away years, you know, in front of them where they had no relationship with their kids. And some of the men I know who finally said, you know, I can't let any more time go by. If I'm ever going to learn and be a part of my children's lives, I have to do something different so that they can share and come together. And you know, it's a beautiful thing when you see people make the right choices for themselves for the first time in a long time, and you see the positive repercussions of all those choices, those good choices that they're now making, where they're meeting with their children, they're home during holidays for the first time in a long time. They're taking steps to improve themselves educationally. They're finding great jobs. They're using the gifts and talents God's given them. And I just don't want to be in any other place right now where I am. The stories and the people and the lives that you see God changing day to day, it just, you know, it says in the Bible, in Romans, the world itself is a testimony of God, and that no man will have any excuse to say that God doesn't exist. And I'm one of those folks. I can certainly say the same thing. I mean, you look at nature, you look at what God has created, and you can't deny that he had his hand in all that. But when I see lives change, and I see people's lives change for the better, and what was once broken is now whole, and where a family was once broken and is now whole. Just amazing, amazing things for myself to have witnessed over these years. So, does anyone have anything they want to share or ask a question about the mission?
Now, your mission is downtown. You said now you're housing single mothers and children, so do you have separate facilities for men to stay? And how many beds do you actually have?
Sure. What's your name?
Pat.
Pat, yeah. So, Pat, our facilities are really numbered in 3 now. Our facility that everyone often will see on television is the Samaritan House Crisis Center. That's the one where we feed about 100 people every night, and that's an open forum. It's open to the public. Anybody can come in. It's at 6:45. And then after that is a beautiful chapel service. We have some people come in, and we have all kinds of pastors, elders, deacons, worship leaders share a good hour, 45 minutes to an hour after dinner, and having great turnout. People stay after dinner, which is wonderful. So that's the Samaritan House. That's the first floor we do the dinner and the chapel on. And then the second floor is a shelter area for men only. It has 20 bunk beds upstairs. And we have a mandatory shower for everybody spending the night with us. And you get hospital scrubs to actually sleep in, so that you're not sleeping in clothes. Everybody's property is kept. Everyone gets this Rubbermaid tub to put their stuff in. It's numbered the same as the bed, and that way you got your personal hygiene items in there, your towels. We really want everyone's stay to be very dignified and really helpful. We actually wash undergarments for the men when they're with us overnight. So while they're sleeping, we're washing underwear and socks and t-shirts and things. And then they get them all back in the morning. But, so that's your men's shelter slash community meals building and chapel service facility. So the other building, which is on Plymouth Avenue, is the Caring Center. And that's more of a residential building. Outside of it being, most of our administration and our office works out of that building. We do have room for 15 men to live with us in an addiction recovery program. And this is a live-in program with an incredible success history. The thing about our program, it kind of separates us from all the others in town, is the length of stay. And we go through a 12-step Christian life recovery program, which is really a program that's been designed for rescue missions. And you live with us for 12 to even 15 months sometimes. And you do nothing but concentrate on your relationship with Christ, working through your addiction, reestablishing relationships with people that maybe they've been really torn up, with children, spouses, parents. I've seen a lot of parents just reunite with their sons. Amazing, amazing thing. And the power of the program is certainly the faith aspect. And any man who goes through this program will tell you his success came because we had such an emphasis on the Bible. We had such an emphasis on the relationship with Christ. And therefore, I think it's anywhere from 50 to 60% of our program has that kind of a graduation rate. But the guys will say that, I was never successful in a lot of programs I went to because, they were outpatients. I came into the program for a few hours for the day, and then I went back out, and I could meet up with all my bad friends. So it wasn't really doing much good. The hardest thing for a man to do in the program is to change his culture, change his lifestyle and his friends, and start to reassimilate himself with healthy relationships, which is why we encourage, that they get grounded in church so that they can find some people to be accountable to and to make new friends with. That's key. And in the program, you're asked to find a mentor. You're specifically asked to find a church and become a part of the ministry in some way. Nothing complicated, but some of the guys, they're just simply going to a church and they're committed to prayer groups. Some are committed to service. But so the Caring Center is really a place where men stay, and hopefully they'll find success. And I can't say that everybody obviously finds success the first time, sometimes not even the second time. But I know some men who have really, they've made 3 and sometimes 4 or 5 attempts to be in our program and failed. But I would say that in most cases, anybody who's ever came back finally did finish the program. Or if they didn't finish the whole program, they finished enough of the program to leave the program even prematurely, but yet God worked on their heart well enough where they didn't need all 12 steps to really be successful and to find sobriety. But they did very well after leaving us, even when they didn't graduate with us. So, God has a plan for everybody. The Caring Center is also a place where we have a women and children's clothing program. It's designed to be very relational. You know, you don't want to just give people clothes, and certainly with the food at the shelter, you know, the chapel service is a way to minister. And so we know that you can't just feed and clothe and shelter people. You have to offer something beyond that. And so the chapel service offers the chance for people to be inspired and to be saved and to understand the Bible. The clothing program is relational, where our women who run the program are trying to build relationships with people coming into the program. You know, you can just have moms come in and out of this program all day long and get a bag of clothes, but if we don't do anything to reach out, ask for, you know, what can we do to pray for your family and pray for you and your children? Some of us are even concerned about how many times a woman is coming to us for clothes. So I'm always encouraging the ladies in the clothing room, you know, don't be afraid to ask people, you know, how they're doing, and make sure that we have, we don't want to be intrusive, but we want to be helpful, and we want to know that if there's a real need that we don't supply the mission, we should encourage them and help them navigate to some other services that we don't have, and give them a chance to help themselves a little more. So the clothing program is really about just knowing who these ladies are, challenging them to do better, and I think we do that at the shelter, certainly too with the men. We're always encouraging the men to think about, you know, what can we do to help you move on. We don't really want people's crisis to be forever. We'd like it to be as short of a time as possible. And let's work together a lot of times with them to do that. So the Caring Center is all about that. Now, Pat, the Women and Children's Program, which has been on our drawing board for probably the last 3 years now, we had a building that we thought we were going to purchase in the 19th ward of the city, which after a couple of zoning board meetings with the city, it didn't happen. And we were disappointed. The neighborhood was not really friendly to us. They didn't really want that kind of a service in their neighborhood. But, you know, God had a different plan anyway. So it was after we were turned down by the city to actually purchase what we thought was going to be the building, we had someone, a friend of ours, who's supervisor of the town of Gates, Mark Cassini, he caught the news clip about the mission being turned down and called us up and said, hey guys, I think I got something for you to look at in Gates for a building. So he picked us up in his car, drove us out to Coldwater Road, and presented to us the idea of, which he knew was for sale. The Diocese of Rochester, Catholic Diocese, was selling the nun convent building of Holy Ghost Church on Coldwater Road, which was really just about the perfect building. It already had rooms in it that the nuns would live in. It had a chapel room. It sits on a property, not only the church property, but right behind it is a daycare with a playground. We just couldn't imagine all these things coming together for us so beautifully. And the diocese did sell us the building at a very, very fair price. We own it now. And so now we have been renovating it to fit, you know, about 6 families in there. And there's still a little bit more work to do. So that's really where we're going. We expect the building will be livable by the end of the year, and we may very well have some women and their families in there before next year, or if not right after the first of the year. One of the tricky things about a program like this is, and this is rescue mission work, in general, and that is, you gotta have the right people in the right positions for the right reasons. I've seen a lot of people come and go over 18 years at the mission, and but then it's funny. 18 years. There's only me and two other people that are there. That were there when I first started working there. So you can see the challenge of ministry. I think any ministry, for that matter, not just what I do, but it's very. It can weigh heavy in your heart, and you have to have you have to have a lot of prayer time. You have to have a lot of downtime. Ministry is always challenging, and it's because it's a people business. It really is, and people are coming from all angles and all lifestyles, and you have to have a very non-judgmental attitude, a very helpful, understanding, all these great virtues, that I'm sure all of what we sometimes could find challenging in our lives. Patience is always a key when you're working with people, and just sharing compassion and love, and genuine and authentic love is usually the best thing. People know when you're phony too, and I think that's a real eye-opener for people who sometimes think they're ready for ministry. Better realize, you have to be genuine all the time, and make sure people see your life as an example of Jesus. And we're not perfect, but it does require a level of maturity to really serve God in a capacity that we are challenged to do in the mission. Yeah, yes.
Dominate. Stop dominating.
Where did you get your funding from?
Oh, our funding is people like yourselves. My goodness. One of the commitments of the mission over all these many 65 years was that we wanted to be true to our core value. And our core value was really the Bible. It was God. It was Jesus. And we never wanted to compromise what we knew was really what people needed first and foremost. So, not to say that we could probably secure government funds, but you never know what some of the strings that come with those funds as a faith-based organization. They can tell you one thing today and then change it tomorrow. So there's really a risk in that. The other reason, I think, too, is that being a private sector, privately funded by the private sector, it gives the community a chance of real ownership. I know that when I personally give to an organization that isn't funded by the government, I really feel like my dollars are really making a bigger difference, because they're not supplemented dollars on top of what they're expecting, from the federal or state. But I really feel that the mission's success is a direct result of the community feeling as though the mission is really doing some great work. And I know that we talk about $2.05 to serve a meal, and it truly is an amazing. $2.05 goes a long, long way, and it's
your foods.
and the food that we get to feed people. Sometimes we have to purchase it. In most cases, it's provided through our food partners. And there are people and stores that you would all know, like Sam's Club and Walmart, Wegmans. We've got a great partnership with Trader Joe's in Pittsburgh, providing our meats and poultry. And serve a lot of fish. There's a lot of hard work that goes into building these partners, and that's partly the success of the mission is these dedicated people that work, such as in the food department. And they've worked diligently to make sure that we have a steady stream of fresh produce and meats and baked goods every day to feed a couple hundred people every day. We're averaging anywhere between maybe about 95,000 meals a year is where it's at right now. And the food is just outstanding. The kitchen staff is amazing. If we weren't a rescue mission, we'd be a 5-star restaurant. That's how good the food is, honestly. But what's more dignified than to be homeless, to be hungry, to come into the mission, to sit down at a banquet table every night of the week, and to be served, not to stand in line for food, but to actually sit down, have somebody bring you a plate of delicious, nutritious food, to fill your tummy, offer you a hot shower, some clean clothes to sleep in a clean bed. We do sheets and pillows and blankets every night or every morning so that they're ready for the next day. I mean, it is really, it's a 5-star restaurant, it's a 5-star hotel in my opinion. Always smells fresh. You'd be surprised, a room filled with 40 guys, all sleeping in bunk beds. Okay, what's this room going to smell like? Well, you'd be surprised how fresh it smells. We have some great circulation going on in that room. It keeps the air really clean and pure. But it's all part of love. It's all part of compassion. And I think it sets the tone for what the mission wants to do to help people beyond these basic needs. It says, we care enough about you to take care of your basic needs with such a high standard that we see you doing a whole lot more if you allow us to help you with some of your root problems. And whether they're addiction, whether for the women coming in, maybe domestic violence is a problem. Maybe it's mental health issues. But we can't address everything, but we do what we can. And then, like I said earlier, whatever we can't do, let's at least help somebody get to where they need to go to get some help.
Yeah, answered a bunch of my questions that I put on my list.
We've got 4 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real quick. Grant Spiker, was he a Christian? Or
He certainly was. He was a
okay.
real
Wasn't just
believer.
to feed people, but that was his Christian services.
Yeah, he was a bona fide Christian, loved the Lord, and I'm trying to think. I wish I could remember Reverend John. If I remember his last name, but he was his partner. John was very well off, and the mission really did a lot. And the two men came together and took on this challenge in Rochester, and they were well noted in the history there in Rochester too for the work they did. But any other question?
Yeah. Well, a few years ago, I just checked that. One was about the staff and the spiritual status, about that you have people working there who are themselves Christians.
Yeah, I mean, with a religious, we're chartered as a religious organization, so we have the privilege to be very selective in the hiring process. So we truly want people will read our statement of faith when they're interviewed for a job. They'll understand, what our mission statement is. What they're actually getting into is very Christ-centered. We'll make sure that they understand
I
that.
was investigating you a few years ago, and I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a place where, like a secular place where people were fed, because that's good too.
Yeah.
But I would rather give to,
Sure.
where they get the real thing that they need is Christ.
Absolutely.
But you have to feed them first, so that and continue that. So That was, you really already covered so much of that that makes me feel good about that. Makes me feel that that's the right place for a donation because they got this spiritual.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you're giving to, anything you're giving to, you want to make sure it lines up with your beliefs and what you would expect people to, kind of services people you know, would expect to receive. And the outcomes, you know, the outcomes have to be there. You can spin your wheels all day long, but if you don't have a real, if you're not really contributing to just the good outcomes that are really making a difference in the community.
Now, do you have a mobile unit? Someone was taking a truck around and delivering soup or something in the winter. I remember particularly.
Oh, yeah.
There, and I remember that some people wouldn't come to.
Yeah, there's actually a ministry that we partner with. Sometimes we have a surplus of foods in certain categories, and so we offer it up to, there's a ministry called the Father's Heart, and it's a gentleman who goes around with a mobile unit and has, he has stops throughout the week to different locations where he feeds people out on the street. But he's, they have a gospel, they preach a message and everything. So
I think it's kind of fun that you do put out
I love it.
5 cents will feed someone, because then you can think, how many people can I feed Thanksgiving dinner to?
Right. Well, thank you so much. Everyone going to stay for service, I would imagine, right? Oh, praise God. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to sing some of my favorite songs, and I'll share some more. I'll be more scriptural. I think I'll share some real deep scriptures with you guys in service. So thank you so much.